How's it going? Welcome along to Golf Weekly. Nathan with you this week. No Joe. He is off. He's got the big gig live on TV3 all weekend. No pressure on me. I'm fairly sure TV3 gave him the gig on the back of his performances hosting the new All Look Golf Weekly. You can get us on youtube.com/off the ball, facebook.com/off the ball, or if you're just listening on the podcast, I hope the sound is all right. Who knows, Peter? This could be the start for me. Upward trajectory in my career.
I'm liking it, Nathan. I'm liking it.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good.
Former European Tour winner Peter Lawrie.
Thank you very much. Yes, here. Busy morning this morning.
Oh, yeah?
A bit late. Yes. I have to do my product placement now.
Go
today.
on. Well, you're doing your product placement. You've got your Luttrell Sound top on.
But I was picking up my nice brand new car today from Renault Bellegarde.
Here. What?
They're very, very good to me.
Why do you get a free car?
I don't know. They must like me for some unknown reason.
How long have you got a free car for?
A year. I had one last year.
Is this the first time you got a free car?
No, I've had a few cars over my...
And have they a big Renault Bellegarde sign on the side?
No, we have a tiny little sign, product placement sign, yeah.
I drive everywhere.
Like to,
I drive all the time.
Well, there you go.
I could really do with a free car.
I could give you a bit of introduction now. Renault Bellegarde, I
love Renault. Yeah. I really like Renault. Renault Bellegarde, my favourite car dealer. Other car dealers are around if they would like to pay us.
Exactly.
It's like that time Callaway were going to come on board and it just never happened, and we loved Callaway clubs for several months, and then we just had to just backtrack a little bit.
I think we'll start liking Titleist, maybe is the way forward.
Oh,
you hear that,
you think so?
Yeah, there's a few guys out there now that listen to the pod.
Wow. All right. Listen, there's a lot of people interested in sponsoring this pod right now because we have the audio-visual element. So you can get your name right down there if you wanted. All that jazz. I'll wear a hat.
Yeah, I got Luttrell Stand right here.
You see, that's okay product placement. I think you need that in white so it stands out a little bit more.
No, as I said to you, what did I say?
Oh, you're going for subtle.
Subtle.
Well, you weren't very subtle when you literally said, can I just pause for a moment and I mention Renault Bellegarde, who've given Peter Lawrie, like, this is the long-lasting success of being a European Tour winner.
Absolutely, yes.
Does Porter Carrington have a free car? Probably has about 4, doesn't he?
I'd say he has at least 4, probably, yes.
God, that's sickening you.
From a different manufacturer, of course.
From a different not as good.
And we're not mentioning them.
Not as good as Renault Bellegarde. Such as the newfound technology we have in Golf Weekly, we can now go live to Fionn Davenport's bedroom. Hey, Fionn.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Fionn. How are you?
Fionn, you look a little bit like Harry Potter there. I would just maybe sit back a little bit.
Better.
I just tilt the screen down a little bit so you're just seeing the top of your head.
We're just this is a disaster, Fionn. We should never have gone to your bedroom. There we are.
Beautiful.
Just maybe if you could be 2 inches taller, that'd be great, Fionn.
If I was 2 inches.
There was a song about that, wasn't there? I wish it was a little bit taller.
Yeah, there is, yeah. Fionn, we can barely hear you. We'll come back to you in a minute. We'll see if we can get that line sorted out. So Fionn is going to join in as well. There's a lot to talk about this week. So we have Tiger. He made the cut at Torrey Pines. His short game looks to be in top shape. He is wild as off the tee. Quite a few talking points from the Farmers Insurance. Jason Day back to winning ways after that playoff against Alex Noren. And JB Holmes' slow play. We have a lot of tweets in about that. We'll talk on the European Tour. Rory going close yet again, but unable to seal the deal at the Dubai Desert Classic. And it is one of the craziest weeks of the year at the PGA Tour, the Waste Management Phoenix Open. They've already had a streaker this week. They've had somebody hospitalised after a run over by a golf cart. They're expecting up on 700,000 people at the Phoenix Open this week. 250,000 on Saturday alone. It is quite simply the biggest piss up in American sport. So we're going to get to a few of your tweets, and it has been a very busy week. We are at Golf Weekly OTB now. We changed our Twitter handle at Golf Weekly OTB if you want to get in touch. CKD82, hey Golf Weekly, is there any golf outing in the pipeline this week? Give us plenty of notice. We may have some news about that very, very soon. I don't want to tell you what it is. I'm going to be subtle, but maybe, just maybe, it might be somewhere on a jumper Peter Lawrie is wearing. You might even see Peter Lawrie if you go visiting there, but hopefully we'll have some more details about that over the coming weeks. JP O'Reilly is listening for years in Melbourne, watching the pod on my TV for the first time. A complete letdown. Always imagined you all sitting in a cupboard doing this for love, and now I can't see it. # ruined.
It's always the way, isn't it? You know, you look at things and they're just not quite what you imagined them.
Well, you see, the imagination, Fionn, of us being in a cupboard wasn't that untrue for quite a long time. We've gone all glitz and glamour right now, but there were many years on the podcast where we were quite literally locked in a cupboard.
Yeah, and also this idea that we're not doing it for love. Like, we are doing it. I'm not getting paid, so
You're not getting a
done
free
for
car
love.
from Renault Bellegarde?
No, the Megane. I like a good Megane. Actually, I think I know someone who does the PR for Renault, and they're very good at placing their products with the appropriate people. Not me, I hasten to add. Peter, obviously, is a far more deserving and public profiler of Renault than I could ever be. But
Without going on about this, so what's the benefit to Renault Bellegarde of giving you the car? Do you have to do a couple of corporate days for them?
I have to do a couple of corporate days.
Oh, that's okay.
For them,
I was wondering, is it
It's
just
a
that you
case of-
park in the prime position in Luttrellstown and that a lot of rich folk who are members of Luttrellstown are walking past your car every day and they go, well, that's a nice car, isn't it? Maybe I'll buy one of them from Renault Bellegarde.
There could be that product placement, all right.
Wow.
Nathan.
Wow.
There
This
could
is,
be.
quite an interesting
native
deal.
advertising, they call it.
Yeah, native advertising. Listen, and Peter is the
Yeah.
expert. We didn't realise this when we asked him to get involved, but bloody hell, you're setting the bar pretty high. At least Rory was up front with his blatant watch promotional endorsement, unlike the slithery Justin Rose signing for his fans with Big Ben strapped to his wrist. This is the Rory McIlroy tweet. I'll show you the picture. You can maybe just about see it up there. That's a bit more subtle than the Justin Rose. Listen, It's a nice watch. Why not?
Yeah, but they all as soon as they play and they finish playing, you always see them on the 18th green if they've won with a big giant watch in their hands. Like, Justin Rose is a big fan of Hublot. I had to check what it was that he was advertising. It's Hublot watches.
And do you know the gas thing about it is, right? Guys like that actually collect watches.
But what else have you got to collect?
It's something that I don't get, but they collect watches. So the actual watch manufacturer doesn't really need to pay them. They're going to collect some kind of a big watch out there.
I presume that's because very rich folk, they like to compare the size of things.
Possibly
And
so.
then when other very rich folk come over, you just show them your giant watch and they go, whew,
Ooh, I like that.
got that for free. Free product placement. Did you ever get a free watch?
No, I actually won a watch for a hole-in-one, but never got a free watch.
Oh, yeah. An expensive watch?
It was an Omega. It was a very nice watch, yes.
Could you take the cash? Or did you have to take the watch?
No, it was a watch deal only.
Wow. What was the best freebie you ever got? The car from Renault Bellegarde?
Maybe. I'll have to work
Right
on
now.
that one. Right now, that's the absolute best.
We had a tweet in as well about, it was the Irish Ryder Cup 30th annual CIA against the FBI. What a week in the Bears Lakes Country Club. The FBI were the winners once again, 67.5 to 58.5. It's the FBI, which is the foreign-born Irish, against the CIA, which is the Celtics Irish Americans.
Ooh.
So, it takes place at the Bears Club. And there's about 40 of them playing in that, which is pretty impressive. Brian Hegarty, hi guys, your team to the show, team to Robin Hood, Tiger 17 Masters. Who's the confident front runner? Who can't count the shots? Who says fuck? Darren Clark, just asking. So the confident front runner, Fionn, is Steve Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Kevin
it is.
Na can't count the shots.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Is it not Tiger who's cursing?
And he's not actually saying. It sounds like fuck, but he's not actually saying that. He's saying something else.
And Darren Clark is the last one that Dave McIntyre was winding up at the Irish Open.
I think we should have the Shane Lowry one in there from the Honda? Remember he got fined for the words that he
that's why
used?
somebody responded and said, I think it's Shane Lowry.
Yeah.
We should.
Oh,
He
we'll
hit
need
it
to
in the
update
water
it.
and he had a few
It's all right.
a split.
Is that the type of thing that they would fine you for on the European Tour, the PGA Tour?
Oh, if you're beside a camera, yes, very much so.
What sort of fine?
Yeah, if
$5,000?
Normally, if not more.
Whew.
If you listen to the Tiger one carefully, he's not saying F-U-C-K. He's going, you suck. That's what he's actually saying.
Frank Kelly, as a follower of Manchester City, I know the transfer window's still open. Can the PGA Tour send that slow piece of shit JB Holmes to the European Tour on loan after yesterday's fiasco in San Diego? Bloody hell. Hashtag friend of the pod. We will get to that. It's an interesting one. If from Owen Murphy, if Peter Lawrie is on the show this week, can you ask him on a ruling which cost me a scratch cup? I was disqualified because my score was not on the computer, but I had returned the card which I had filled out correctly. The competition secretary told me he had missed my card as he does not have time to check all the cards, and I was DQ'd based on a local rule that states you have to use the computer. Is this correct?
It certainly wouldn't be on the European Tour. Once you hand in your card, that's you done. And I
But in a scratch cup,
I think in amateur golf, as long as you sign the card and the numbers are in the boxes, you don't have to add it up. You don't have to do anything once you hand it in. So I think, as a scratch cup, I would be very surprised that he was disqualified, and I would certainly question it.
So
is there not
go on, Phil?
the key word, lads, the local rule, that if there's a local rule, that the club can establish that as the basis on which to, even though I agree, I think it's ridiculous that he got DQ'd, but that they can say, hey, you know the local rule, and that's the way it is.
It could be a local rule for their local competitions rather than a scratch cup, meaning like an open competition.
Where do you generally find out about the local rules? Are they written up in the notice board?
They'd be written on a notice board. In Luttrell Sound, they're written on the notice board, yeah.
So he did fill out the card, he entered the card, but he never went up to the computer and entered his scores there. So therefore, while it is a local rule, the competition secretary basically couldn't be arsed going through all the cards. Just lets the computer do all the work.
Well, remember now, these guys are working FOC. You know what I mean? They're doing it for their love of the game, like we are. However, you know, there is mistakes to be made, and maybe he was having an off day and he just didn't want to fill everybody in. So I would definitely question about being disqualified.
Brian Hegarty, I think it is. Oh no, Wally Cummins. Is this a golf tournament or a day family outing? Dash is getting old, isn't he? Really growing up.
Yeah.
Were you being cynical, Fionn? Were you being cynical?
No, you know me.
Fionn is extremely cynical about the PGA Tour practice of tournament winners having their children greenside.
Run onto the green, yeah. It's a... Go on, Phil.
Well, what we have generally is for 30 seconds we've humanized these robots, and we've shown the world, look, these are people just like you and me. They have feelings. They know how to love.
They have a family, with the nanny running out after the child saying, come back. So it's a bit different, all right. Stephen is at home watching the pod with his feet up instead of listening in the car or on a train. Game changer, hashtag FOTP. PS, ye look great. Thanks, Stephen. That's the sort of message we like to get. Andrew Fitzgerald is one of these tweets that we're very jealous of. Great day chasing at Tiger Woods all day at the Farmers Insurance Open. Incredible short game. Driver needs a lot of work. He only hit 3 out of 14 fairways. Great to have him back. Spending a day at Torrey Pines. Following Tiger, though, at Torrey Pines, it is one of those, maybe you're better off at home. You're not 6 people deep. Yes, very difficult. I much prefer watching, well, apart from playing golf, of course, but if I was going to watch it, I'd watch it on TV rather than being out there with the masses. And Brian Chow marvelling at Tiger's short game, saving his skin through 3 rounds. Premature to say first golfer in history to ever come back from the chipping yips? No, definitely not. He's definitely not back from the chipping yips, or he's definitely not the first golfer to overcome them? He's definitely not the first golfer to overcome any kind of yips. Sure, Lee Westwood had them for a while. David Guilford had them, played Ryder Cup, wasn't able to chip the ball at all, and he recovered sort of ish. Right, let's talk Tiger then. He made the cut. In fact, the position he finished was predicted by our resident guru.
23rd.
No, definitely.
In this context, right now, I want to know how you're swinging it. What's your target? Like Rory talked about, he sets his targets. Is it, I want to make the cut. Just make the cut and finish 23rd.
No, definitely. How I'm feeling right now. I mean, if someone had told me at the start of the year you'd finish 3rd and 2nd your first 2 events, I would have said, yeah, I'll take that. But
not sure what happened there. We saw a little bit of Rory McIlroy. We'll bring you that in full in a moment. But before that, we had the genius of Fionn Davenport, who predicted that Tiger Woods would finish 23rd. And where did Tiger Woods finish? 23rd. Bloody hell, Fionn. We have had endless amounts of tweets about this. You can't bet in it, unfortunately.
You can.
Do you think...
Not anymore, but you could have.
The fact that he finished tied 23rd, does that matter?
It does in the bookies, yeah. You get down on the bookies for that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to tell you that I had like a really scientific analysis of Tiger and kind of came up with 23rd. But it was really kind of pot shot. I went for a number between 20 and 30. I thought he'd finish top 30. And I just kind of came out 23rd. Yeah, there you go. And I've had many a text message since. Although none from you guys. so much.
Well,
what did you call me, Nathan? Sarcastically call me a genius.
Yeah, well, I didn't need to text you because within moments of Tiger finishing tied for 23rd, you WhatsApped me to point out that Tiger had finished tied for 23rd, and you were pretty much clapping yourself on the back for about the next 4 hours. So you're talking about Tiger's do you believe Tiger did have the chipping yips?
Yes, most definitely.
So
he really struggled with them, and you could see that it was a kind of an involuntary movement down the end. So
and is that gone from what you saw last week? Like, he had to scramble brilliantly.
He scrambled brilliantly. I'd say he's been practicing his short game no end, different shots. So yeah, maybe it is gone. But we haven't seen him under any kind of severe pressure on a short game.
First time in 4.5 years that he's had all 4 rounds par or better. We'll get on to his driving right now. So, like, everything with Tiger's going to come back to the majors and Augusta. Did you see enough there to think that we can maybe start trusting Tiger's short game around a course as difficult as that?
His short game, I think you can trust. I don't think you lose that over a while. I would be very concerned with his driver.
30% off the tee, his lowest ever throughout his career, hitting 3 fairways on average around. Like, is that just rustiness? Is that an easier fix than the short game yips?
I think that's a much more difficult fix.
Right.
You stand up on the tee and you have to know where it's going. Like, I just looked at the stats before I came in here. He had 19% of his misses were left and 40% of his misses were right. So
he doesn't have a miss.
He doesn't have a miss. Like, you'd love to see, all of his misses on one side of the fairway or not. And he doesn't have a stock shot. Doesn't seem to have that shot in the bag anymore. But, he used to play this low stinger. Doesn't go back to that. And he's not long enough anymore. Like, you look at Jason Day, he had 53%, 54% really of accuracy. His longest drive was 350 yards for the week. Tiger's longest drive was 358 yards. So he's not lacking in distance. But if Jason Day is hitting his driver and hitting it pretty straight, and Tiger's hitting some other club and having to hit more club into the green, you eventually get found out pretty quick.
Yeah, Fionn, when he did on the few rare occasions hit the fairway, as Peter touched on, like 358 yards straight down the middle of the fairway, it was rare. It was beautiful when it happened. Like, if he can get that sort of consistency somehow over the next 2 months, everything else seems to be in place to challenge.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of build on what Peter said, he was dead last in driving accuracy. Having said that, and the stats are pretty grim, like 17 of 54 fairways over the course of the 4 days, the worst of his career. Now, he did, I noticed that some of the misses were just barely off the fairway, but they still count as a stat. His length, he was 16th in the field in driving, which is impressive for a guy who's 42, hasn't really played that much. One of the other mitigating factors, maybe, if it was another player, was that he switched equipment, so he moved from TaylorMade's M2 driver to the M3, which is, he's only been testing for the last month or so, but even he put paid to that one and said, no, it's just a swing. Sure, okay, so the obvious thing to say is that he needs to sort out that driving. Like, now, obviously, this is a guy who's notoriously never been that good a driver. Like, he was always a bit wild, but I mean, this is wild in a different league. I would argue that it would be more troubling if he couldn't dial in his distance control. Like, that would be, I think, a much more worrying problem than this, which isn't to say that this isn't a worry or a concern if he's going to contend at any point this year. I mean, there's only, like, what did he got down, up and down 19 out of 30 times that he missed the green. He only had 42 greens in regulation out of the 72. So, yeah, I mean, he's got what? He's got a month to kind of work on, as Peter says, some decent shot that he can just make. Like, even if it's just like his cut fade, that just get it into play. Sorry, go on.
I think the game has moved on from that, from the Monty fades, hit it one way, hit it down the middle of the fairway and play on from there. The game has moved on from there. You have to hit it a long way to give yourself any kind of chance against the likes of Dustin Johnson, Jason Day, Jordan Spieth, whoever else, Rory, whoever it might be, you have to be long, you have to be straight, and you have to attack. And getting the ball in play for Tiger is no good anymore. It just doesn't do it.
He needs to be able to retain the length that he has shown this week,
exactly,
and get to that sort of percentage that Jason Day is at.
Correct. And to me, it's not a physical issue. I think it's a mental issue.
It's not a technical issue.
I don't think so. I think this is something that finishes careers. It doesn't. You don't come back. You know what I mean, from this kind of torture that you put yourself through off the tee. Where is it going? How am I going to get up and down? Like he's used the short game, as we've just said, to finish 23rd, and it was phenomenal how good a short game was. Now, if his short game doesn't work, he misses the cut by miles.
And he's going to Riviera in 2 weeks' time, an inner city tight course where you've no chance of recovery.
None. No. So I honestly think this is a mental issue. If he can get over this mental issue, he's superhuman. I think other players.
Do you think this is a bigger challenge actually than the chipping yips?
Oh, by a long shot. By a long shot. This is the be all and end all, because the game has moved on so much. Like you look at even take for example Póric. Póric has spent so long trying to get to improve his length off the tee to keep up with these guys. Look how far Rory hits it. Look how far Shane Lowry hits it, and all the others, Dustin Johnson, whatever else. You have to be driver out there. You know what I mean? Chip on, make your birdie.
A couple of things then on Tiger. So he's not working with a swing coach at the moment. He got rid of Chris Como, and that was, I don't want to say it was welcome, but it was sort of met with a shrug of Tiger at this stage of his career really needs to be able to figure things out by himself. So if you're not saying it's a technical issue, like mentally, how can you do that? It does. I think the problem he might face is it doesn't sound like it's something you can fix on the range, or you can fix going around Isleworth or somewhere nice in Florida. That you can only really know it on the course. And if you're only playing some of the toughest courses in the world, like Riviera, that it can shatter your confidence again. I just wonder how actually mentally he can get through.
Well, that's the thing. Like you look at it before he made his comeback, right? He played with Trump, and he played with a few other celebrities, and they all said, "Oh, Tiger was swinging it great, hitting the ball miles." Like yourself, you get out in any golf course, and there's no pressure on you whatsoever. We can all hit it miles down the fairway, no problem. You're not worried about your misses, whatever else. But get into a tournament, and if you miss the fairway, you're making bogey. And it's a different kettle of fish altogether. So this is as I said, going to keep on saying it, mentally this is going to be very tough.
The American public are still lapping him up. Fionn, Sunday's final round coverage, 2.9 overnight rating, up 38% on 2017. Best Sunday numbers in 5 years since Tiger last won there.
And see, I've just listened. I agree with everything Peter's saying. And I vacillate between 2 points of view. And I think those stats, that popularity stats, are key towards informing how we view or how we want to see Tiger, or judging Tiger's performance, because we can separate the fact. One is that Tiger is still, certainly on looking at the numbers, he is still Mr. Golf. He is the guy who made everybody else a millionaire. Golf needs Tiger Woods. I mean, maybe Jordan Spieth doesn't need Tiger Woods, or Dustin doesn't need him, and Rory doesn't need him, but golf generally needs him because he brings the audiences in, the TV viewerships go up. Now, a winning Tiger or a contending Tiger is that Tiger. A Tiger that doesn't do anything perhaps doesn't have anywhere near the same cachet. But then there's the other part. So there's a sense, I think, that a lot of people are being very positive, looking for the positives in Tiger's performance and going, like I just did. Maybe because part of me is informed by this. I want Tiger to be back because Tiger is the box office draw. But then there's the other side of it. Tiger's the greatest golfer that ever lived, in my mind. Tiger's a genius who can do things that no other golfer has ever done. So we have to judge him by a different set of parameters than we judge any other golfer. And then on the back of what Peter just said, which I think is very reasonable, I think is very well observed, there's a part of me thinks, not even the greatest genius that golf has ever produced can, at the age of 42, with so much rustiness, with so much bad wiring inside of him, can come back and be anywhere near, never mind the dominant golfer that he was 12 years ago, that he can be the contending golfer that we all desperately need.
This is what finished Seve as a golfer off the tee. Seve couldn't hit it on the planet, but move Seve onto the fairway. He was brilliant, but Seve,
and that ended in embarrassment, humiliation, almost.
Exactly, in his 40s, couldn't get the ball anywhere near the golf course.
But Tiger wasn't as bad as that, was he? Though, Peter. I mean, he was off. He didn't have a good driving day, but on a tight course with a bit of wind, like, he was off, but he wasn't Seve off.
No, I agree with you. But the point I was trying to make was this ends careers. Not being able to get it down the fairway, at a certain length, it ends your career, and that's what I'd be very wary of. And how long Tiger would be interested in scrambling around the dirt, picking up, 23rd positions.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing, because it is Tiger, where we've been so wary for the last 3-4 years of writing him off, because if there's one player in the world who can maybe go against the grain and everything you've just said, it probably still is Tiger Woods. So viewing figures were even higher on the Saturday to watch Tiger, and golf maybe has the average Joe back watching again. And what does golf do? Does it put on the best possible show on Sunday night? No, it puts on JB Holmes taking the length of an ad break to take one bloody shot, and then he decides to lay up 4 minutes 10 seconds for his approach to the 18th hole. I was watching this live on Sunday night, and I honestly thought that there was a problem with the feed. That maybe I had just been a little bit overtired, and I'd missed some sort of 2-minute spell where they had gone off to somebody else, cut back, and wanted to show us the full rigmarole of JB Holmes' build-up. But he needed an eagle to get in the playoff. He's entitled to take his time. It's blustery, but still, 4 minutes 10 seconds when Alex Noren, who's co-leader at that stage, is waiting to take his shot, is quite frankly disgraceful.
I totally agree with you. It's a lack of sportsmanship, and it just goes to show you the type of character that he is. He couldn't care anything about anybody else.
Well, he said if it bothered Alex, he could have said something and he could have hit. If I messed up, I apologise. He still made a good swing. He smoked it. I don't understand what the big hoopla is all about. I was just trying to give myself the best possible chance. Now, he's right that Alex Noren did smoke it, but he did change clubs. He massively overhit the green. He did manage to get up and down and still save par to end up in that playoff with Jason Day. But there's taken the 40-60 seconds that you're allocated. It's the final hole of a major tournament. As I say, it is blustery. Conditions are difficult. Maybe you take 2 minutes in such conditions. But 4 minutes 10 seconds, suddenly, I would love to get Alex Noren's honest opinion and what his thought process was. Is Noren probably standing there wanting to wrap that club around JB Holmes' neck?
No, Alex is not that type of guy. He's probably going, what is this guy doing? You know what I mean? He'd be very level-headed, Alex would be.
Is that JB Holmes' type of game to take that? Did he just panic?
I think, you have to blame JB, but you also have to blame the caddy as well. They were fluting around with yardages, will I go, won't I go, will I lay up, won't I lay up, where am I going? If you need to make 3, you have to try and hit it on the green. You know what I mean? You're not going to... The law of averages, how many times are you going to hold it from the fairway to get into a playoff? It's rare going to happen. Really, he needed to get it up around the green and try and chip in for birdie. Or for eagle, should I say? So I would blame JB. I would also blame his caddy, and that's the way a final round goes. And there was nothing that the tour could do anything about it right there and then. They weren't on the clock at the time. If they were, at least he could have been fined. But it just proves the point that the worst people for slow play are professionals. It's my era, my profession that do the worst for slow play, and kids look at this and think, this is acceptable. And it's not acceptable. You get to your ball, you get ready and you hit it.
Fionn?
I don't think, I have to be careful here. Obviously JB Holmes was disgraceful. He doesn't owe Alex Noren anything. On the 18th hole, on the 72nd hole of, as you say, a major tournament, JB Holmes' only obligation is to pick the best shot that's going to give him the best chance of winning. So he doesn't have to. I mean, I realize that in the game of golf that were meant to exercise sportsmanship. But I don't think, I saw that people were saying that he was icing Noren. I think really in the end, I don't think JB Holmes was thinking about Alex Noren that much. I think he was thinking more about himself. However, his behaviour was disgraceful. And it wasn't just that him and back and forth with the caddy. There was a full minute when he stood there waiting for the wind to drop. Like a full minute. He just standing there watching, waiting for that wind to drop. Now, I realise the wind was swirling. The flags are tucked away on Poa greens that are hard to hit. So this is a really, really tough shot. And particularly because he needs the eagle. Having said that, it took him, this was 6 hours into their round. There was one point earlier on where Tiger Woods had a 22-minute wait on the tee box. 22 minutes. Like, that's insane. The PGA need to look at this and need to look at it now.
Yeah, JB Holmes was making that point as well as part of his defence, that earlier on in the round he was having 20-minute waits on the tee box. And that 4-minute break in the end, Fionn, almost ended up overshadowing the fact that this had been a 6-hour round. Like, Tiger Woods is back, you're getting big viewing figures, and what are you treating people to? The most inane, boring, drawn out round of golf possible. Like, it was an hour too long.
Exactly. And
100%. To finish the point is, I think that in the end, of course JB Holmes and his caddy are to blame, but the ultimate responsibility is with the PGA. Like, here's the thing. I can't remember who it was, but it was Brooks Koepka. Now, Brooks Koepka made a very interesting point. Because he's such a long hitter, he ends up having to wait to play his shot, because generally he'll go second on a lot of fairways. And he has heard referees walk up to players, warning them for slow play, and tell them that if you continue with this, you're going to get fined or you're going to get penalised. And then the referee, they balk. They don't do anything about it at all. And the point he's making is just that, like, the PGA has to actually get tough with this kind of thing. Here's the thing, never mind money. They all have money. Find them a shot. That's it. They will all speed up. JB Holmes or any slow player will never again stand on a fairway for 4 minutes. Never mind 4 minutes. They'll never stand on a fairway for more than 40 seconds. Ever again, if you find them a shot.
JB Holmes is understandably the lightning rod for criticism right now, but it'll be another player in a month's time, and this is going to keep happening. And Fionn touched on it there. The issue is the PGA Tour, and they have a new commissioner in. Tim Finchin is gone, Jay Monahan has taken over. Maybe this is an opportunity, with Tiger back, with the renewed interest levels, to take a stand and say this is totally unacceptable, and we're going to introduce, as Fionn says, harsher timekeeping, and we're going to be a bit stricter with our referees. He comes out and says, playing in the Pro-Am yesterday, as it relates to JP, he was in the heat of the moment. It's really hard to win here. You're trying to think through how you get in the green in 2 with that amount of wind. I think he thought it would subside quickly, and it subsided and picked back up. And I think he said what he needed to say. Like, we heard what JB Holmes. Ultimately, what it reinforces, I guess, is the players hold all the power on the PGA Tour.
Oh, they do, very much so. And like the easiest way, as Fionn would say, like the PGA Tour and the PGA of America have many, many, many referees out there. All you have to do is go to one tournament and have a referee with each group, with a clock stating, this is our timings, and we're all given a pin sheet at the start of the day, and on the back of the pin sheet there's a timing. Now, there's no way the timing for last Sunday was 6 hours. Like, they had to be 2 hours over their time slot, because your normal on a hard golf course is 4 hours, maybe 21 minutes or something like that. And if they put a referee with each group, they'd have no slow play. The TV schedule would be bang on, so it helps TV, it helps the viewers. I tried to watch the golf last Thursday night, and I kept on skipping back to Sky Sports, and Sarah was in there with Nick Bradley, and I thought, I'm going to shoot myself. This is dreadful stuff. I can't watch it. All I was trying to do was watch Tiger back on the telly. But as a golf fan, never mind as a player, I was turned off it straight away.
Brief word before we leave the Farmers then. Jason Day obviously ended up winning the tournament on Monday. I was almost pleased that everyone had to come back on Monday and that they were punished like the rest of us who'd stayed up until 1:30 in the morning over here to watch 6 holes of the playoff. It was a big day for Alex Noren, who for most American TV viewers he was treated as if he was some journeyman who nobody had ever heard of before, rather than being one of the most successful Europeans of the last 4 or 5 years. But Jason Day, we mentioned him last week in the pod, he'd pulled out of the Pro-Am with a back injury. Like, he's been talking about his back problems, which seem extremely serious, and you would worry about his long-term golf future over the next 3-4 years. It is that old beware the injured golfer, though. He did look back somewhere close to his best.
Jason Day, to me, and I don't know Jason, but to me, looking at on the television, if he's not playing well, oh, my back is sore and I want to pull out, and he looked that way on Thursday or Friday evening. And all of a sudden he goes on to win the tournament. He's one of these players that I feel that he puts far too much emphasis on his injuries rather than just getting on with what he looks for something to blame, rather than saying, oh, I'm playing poorly because X. He plays poorly because it's not his fault, it's his back's fault, or it's your fault, or it's somebody else's fault. But he certainly played the golf to win.
He shot a 1 over on Thursday and won, and did the exact same thing 3 years ago. Shot a 1 over on the Thursday, went on to win. Sorry, before we go, one point. The in all of this kind of waiting in between shots, as we were treated to Sarah Sturck and Nick giving us. Did you see the one? The particular low point was when Nick was going to give us a putting lesson, but they couldn't find a ball in the studio. That was the one.
We really shouldn't. We shouldn't laugh on this podcast about something like that happening. It's 100% the type of thing we would do.
Well, there's a difference is that we have a total of €0 to put all this organisation together. I'm going to bet that Sky Sports a few extra quid.
Nick Bradley is a putting coach?
No, Nick Bradley was a coach to... he was a Ledbetter disciple, if I remember correctly. And he worked with Paul McGinley. I think he worked with Faldo very briefly. He worked with Justin Rose very briefly as well.
Okay.
He's had a few top clients now, to be fair to him. But as the years have gone on, he's kind of worked his way down the list rather than working his way up the list.
The tagline, I think, on Sky Sports was part of Paul McGinley's backroom team for the Ryder Cup. Yeah. Listen, he got a good weekend out of it anyways. He got 5 days. We might talk on the European Tour. Last week was the Dubai Desert Classic. Rory gave himself every chance. He was 2 shots ahead of Li Hao Tang on the back 9. Let's hear what Rory had to say after his second place finish.
No, definitely. How I'm feeling right now, I mean, if someone had told me at the start of the year you'd finish third and second your first 2 events, I would have said, yeah, I'll take that. But being in the positions that I've been in and having 2 close calls the first couple of weeks of the year, it's a little difficult, and I think I wouldn't, the competitor in me is very disappointed right now. I wanted to win. I always want to win. And I just didn't do enough when I needed to.
So 3rd place in Abu Dhabi for Rory, followed by 2nd place in Dubai last week. Peter, is this just overwhelmingly positive from Rory at the start of the season?
I have to admit, as Fionn said, Tiger would finish 23rd. I came on this show about Rory. I said that his practice was going exceptionally well. He would be the man to contend with this year, and he's come out of the blocks very well. A little bit disappointing in Dubai. He's had a lot of experience around that golf course. If it was a Tiger Woods, he would have finished it out. But signs are great in relation to he's driving the ball very well. His short game's pretty good.
How's his putting?
His averages are not bad. Still not great, but he finished 27th last week in the putting averages and 29th the week before.
And that's generally all he needs. He's never going to be the best putter in the world.
Exactly.
But the rest of his game's so good. If he can be top 30 every week.
Yeah. The one thing that was a little bit disappointing last week, he was in greens and regulation. He was 27th, and in Dubai and in Abu Dhabi he was 6th. Was he green? Yeah. 16th. So a little bit not as good as the previous week. But really great signs for Rory, I have to admit.
The only reservation I had watching him over the last couple of weeks, Fionn, was both in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. The courses seem to play particularly easy. Last week the cut ended up in a 5 under par. Yeah. So maybe it isn't until he gets to Pebble Beach, Riviera, Honda Classic on that 3-week stretch in the PGA Tour that we'll get a real good sense of how Rory's fixed ahead of the Masters.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think I wanted to pick on a point that Peter made that I think is very, very true. So that clip that we heard of Rory's. Now, I'm sure that many a listener is going to get on my back and give out fine. There's a part of me just doesn't believe, like when he goes, the competitor in me. I'm like, really? The what in you? There's something about, like Peter says, if it had been Tiger Woods, he would have closed it out. Now, having said that, so I think there's always like an iffiness that Rory lets his shoulders can sink a bit, or he's not the grinder that his talent perhaps should deserve. Or having said all of that, like 3.5 months off with an injury, and he comes back, finishes third and second, and not for the want of trying. He breathed down Hao Tong Lee. Well, he should have had it really, but then Hao Tong Lee just kind of held him off for the remainder of the 9 holes, and it was amazing. But there's something, I think that we're not really going to be able to judge whether this is going to be a dominant season by Rory McIlroy until he goes to tighter fairways, harder greens, where the scoring average is going to be lower, where the winning score isn't going to be 23 under. These are, it's still an impressive start to the year, but I think that, I still think that he hasn't answered the key questions that have been dogging him for the last 5 or 6 years.
Neither Rory or Tiger are playing this week at the Phoenix Open. Just looking at the betting, Hideki Matsuyama, who has won the last 2 years at the Phoenix Open, is just a joint favourite at 9-1 with John Ram, with such a terrible final round at Torrey Pines. Had a chance to become the world number one and finished behind Tiger.
Yeah. Hey, come here. Are you going to not say a word about Hao Tong Lee?
We did. We said he won the tournament.
But do you not, 22-year-old first Chinese winner on the European Tour, is this not worthy of, I don't know what Peter thinks, but I'm just curious, could this guy be a real presence? Is he going to make a difference?
No.
Wow.
Sorry,
moving on.
No, moving onwards. No, I wouldn't say no. He's not going to make a whether he makes a massive difference. It's absolutely wonderful for golf in China. Golf in China over the last 2 years has hit an awful slide. They've closed golf courses left, right and centre. There was a bit of corruption within golf courses and etc. So it's great to see one of their players coming through. Like this, Chinese golfers were led by Zhang, and then after that was Li Yang, and apologies if I haven't pronounced them properly, but these were the leaders in Chinese golf, and they've made an awful lot of money out of it. But wasn't it great to see this young lad, hold up to Rory McIlroy breathing down his neck? He finishes birdie to win the tournament, holds a lovely putt in the last. Can it last? Let's hope so. But does he look like a world beater? Not right now, but he's 22 years of age, so who knows?
Yeah, so perhaps a good European Tour career, but maybe not top 10 in the world.
Possibly, yes.
Right, so the Phoenix Open, if that's okay with Lee Hartong for you, Fionn, unless there's anything else you have on him.
Yeah. No.
I sense the way you said that you'd done 4 hours research on him and you had some really good points to make.
No. I was just curious because the TV commentary kept making reference to the fact that he was, so obviously there's a kind of he's carrying business interests on his shoulders as well. So like Chinese audiences, will China become and will renew itself as kind of interested in golf on the back of Hao Tong Lee? That all of a sudden he's not just a Swedish guy or a Spanish player. There's something more significant, and I was just curious as to whether he has the talent to carry that with him or not. That's the only reason I asked.
Can I just make one point? The European Tour really need China, because there's plenty of money there for the European Tour to go there. And up to this, over the last maybe 3 years, the Chinese Federation had moved away from the European Tour and had moved in with the One Asia Tour. and we lost 1 or 2 golf tournaments in China.
Okay.
So hopefully somebody like this, Li Hang, who has
money
won,
with him,
brings the European Tour and China a little bit close together.
We're tight enough on time, but we'll touch on the Phoenix Open. So Matsuyama, Spieth and Rahm are all leading the betting. As I say, Matsuyama's record here is sensational. Won it the last 2 years, beat Webb Simpson in a playoff last year, Ricky Fowler in a playoff the year before, was second the year before that, fourth the year before that.
He likes the golf course.
It's a big boy golf course. Brooks Koepka's won here, Phil has won 3 times, JB Holmes has won. With the 250,000 people in attendance on Saturday, with the 20,000 people drunk out of their minds around the 16th, is this a good tournament? Do you like it?
I think it is. I've always said about for the European Tour and for America, they need to go to a venue and stay there and build on it, you know. And this is something that these guys have done. You know, you're telling me there's going to be a crowd of 750,000. Isn't that just phenomenal for golf? It's hard
that could
to believe.
literally be the cumulative crowds on the European Tour for the season.
For the season, yeah. Like, did you see that Twitter guy? You know, he's walking out of the stand, and he's heading for the the exit, and he's walking sideways. You know, his whole body is bent over, but he's trying to walk straight. You know what I mean? He's had the whole day.
If this tournament happened in Ireland, I remember down in Carton House they tried to set up a sort of stadium type feel to the 16th or 17th in Carton House.
17th.
The 17th, and it didn't overly take off. It created a decent atmosphere on the Saturday and Sunday. But can you imagine if you had 20,000 Irish people as drunk as they are at the Phoenix Open? There'd literally be a national inquiry afterwards.
There would.
They'd be shutting the pubs again on Good Friday.
Well, look, I think this is a great idea. I think this brings something to the tournament. It also brings guys in to have a bit of a laugh. I remember, you know, a couple of times we did it in Qatar, going into the hospitality, and they were looking after people, and people knew nothing about golf. You know, you'd sit down at the table and who were you watching today would be the first question you were asked. You know, and no, I was playing actually. But isn't it great? It brings something to golf. You know what I mean? So
would you have enjoyed it if you'd played in the Phoenix Open, going to the 16th, and say you were in contention, you were having a good week, and suddenly you're met with this wall of noise, wall of drunkenness?
But it's great. It's great for golf. It's like Tiger, as Fionn said. You know, Tiger's back, and you know the whole world of golf lifts. You know what I mean? And tournaments like this, you know, the whole world of golf, because everybody's talking about it. So I think it's great.
Did I ever tell you boys about my par double bogey finish at the tournament?
Sorry, connection seems to be going there, Fionn.
I played that golf course when I was in Arizona a couple of years ago, and I finished par double bogey.
Wow!
So I parred the 16th and the 17th. I was very pleased.
And was the stand there on the 16th? Was the stadium there?
That's a curious thing. So, and I was talking to a member who was telling me that when all the members are given chance to play the course with the stands up on the Monday and Tuesday after the event, but then they're taken down, and it's a completely barren. It's just a desert course, you know, so it's a weird looking place. The 17th is a very impressive hole, even though it's very, very short. You can drive the green, but you have this narrow funnel into the green that if you go left, you're in water and you're dead. But I thought it was a terrific golf course. As I said, par double bogey.
They've tried to stop some of the fun at Phoenix, so the caddies no longer have their race. Yeah. The players aren't allowed to throw anything into the bleachers at 16 anymore. Harrington used to love that. I think he used to kick American footballs into the supporters in 16.
Somebody said he was bringing cans of Guinness and throwing them in there. Wasn't it at one stage? Maybe footballs as well.
That's probably a nice little corporate deal he's done for himself there.
Maybe so.
I will say this. I was talking to a US golf journalist in Arizona, oddly enough, and we were talking about the success of the Waste Management Open. And he was saying, slightly cynically, he was going, it's the easiest event for any sports journalist to get a freebie at. The easiest one. They make a massive deal of inviting as many people as they can because they want people to really build up and talk about it. It draws in the crowds. But then there's a kind of a bigger question here, that the kind of enthusiasm and behavior that they encourage fans to engage in at Phoenix runs against the behavior they want fans to behave at all the other tournaments. And so it's kind of a weird outlier. Like, say, for instance, you know the fan who shouted in Tiger's backswing on the green whatever it was last week. You know, that kind of behaviour is encouraged, that kind of liquid courage and all that kind of bullshit. But so there's a sense he was saying is that either the rest of the PGA needs to take a leaf out of Phoenix, or Phoenix will become just this freak show relative to the rest of the PGA Tour, and that's not good for Phoenix, because you want Phoenix to be treated seriously. You want Phoenix to be a good event, or certainly the organisers do. So which is it? Do you want the rest of the PGA to learn from the fun of Phoenix, or do you want Phoenix to kind of go, all right, we're going to temper some of the behaviour?
It sort of feels like they're able to mash both of them together right now.
Yeah, that's what
look at the field they have this week.
I think what the Phoenix do is great, apart from somebody shouting in somebody's backswing. I think, you know, having that many people, if they're at the golf course, you know, to be, you know, somewhat quiet when players hitting a shot, but when the shot is in the air, they can shout all they like at it and shout at the player all they like, and if they miss a putt, they can shout at them. But I would hope more of that came onto the tour, and, you know, you got a bit of crowd feedback at least. So many times you've played and you hit your shot close and you think, like, you know, is everybody up there handcuffed? You know what I mean? Like, you've hit it to 2 feet or whatever and nobody said a word. So it's nice sometimes to get a bit of feedback from the galleries.
Yeah, I don't think Harrington is playing this week, actually. I don't see his name in the betting. Shane Lowry is playing, though.
Yeah, I think he looked for an invite and unfortunately didn't get one.
Well, that actually ties into one of the couple of quick points before we finish up, which is looking at some of the world rankings over the last little while, and some of the names that we've spent so much time watching over the last sort of 10 years, and definitely the shift in age group when you look at the world rankings. So Phil is 49th now. He hasn't been outside of the top 50 in 24 years, but it looks as though he's heading in that direction. Remember, Phil hasn't won a tournament since before Tiger last won a tournament. Harrington is in around 140th at the moment and relying on invites. But both Jim Furyk and Graham McDowell have dropped out of the top 200 in the world over the last couple of weeks. When this starts happening to players, when you start dipping down and you're into your 40s, like GMAX losing ranking points, losing exemptions, hasn't won since 2015, and even that was out of the blue, he admitted himself. Like, how do you turn this round?
Very, very difficult. Very difficult, unless he picks everything up and says, right, I'm going to dedicate myself 110% to this. But, you know, for Graham, like, he has other business interests. He's got married. I think they have 2 children now. You know, it's very difficult to get back onto the ladder and climb your way back up again. It's much easier for these young guys, no family, they just keep on playing, you know, and play as much as they want and do quite well. Yeah,
there was that Lawrence Donegan line of Darren Clark a couple of years before he won the Open, that he was in an inexorable decline into irrelevance, and obviously Clark came back and it bit Lawrence in the arse somewhat. The problem
Darren
for Furyk and McDowell, though, is their distance. Like, it must be so disheartening. I think McDowell tried to talk a good game around it for so long, but right now he must be looking at the way the season is lined up and think, I've got maybe 3-4 chances of a top 20, and I have to peak for those weeks, and that's not going to do much for your world ranking or getting you back into tournaments.
No, I can see Graham coming back to Europe and playing a whole lot more,
right?
And trying to pick his tournaments back in Europe, and then maybe try and pick one or two in America. He probably still has an exemption in America, does he? As some shape
in late
form.
2015, and he probably has sort of career money and that
money,
sort of thing,
where he gets a year or maybe a year and a half.
But again, you're not getting into the World Golf Championships, you're not getting into the majors.
No, it's going to be very difficult for Graham, and to be honest with you, golf has progressed so fast. They haven't done anything with the golf ball. They haven't done anything with equipment. You know, guys are hitting it. You know, look, we saw the stats there. 350 last week was Tiger's longest drive. 353 is Jason Day's. You know, while Jim Furyk hits at 270 down the middle of the fairway, Graham is the same. You just can't compete against these guys.
Any thoughts on that, Fionn?
Average 303 yards off the tee. That's unbelievable.
And they say that, you know, there's no issue with the golf ball, or, you know, just people have got stronger. I really, you know, it's typical the R&A and it's typical the USPGA or USGA, especially with the long putter. They did the same thing. They took so long to make a decision rather than, you know, just get off the horse and make the decision. bring something in as quickly as possible and stop ruining all these golf courses that have been magically designed and shaped, but now half of them are a waste of time. Like, look at St Andrews.
Yeah.
You know,
if the wind don't blow, you're looking
to drive nearly every green.
Yeah, it's true.
So
yeah, I'm not.
They just, when they make a decision, they don't make it harsh enough. Like the long putter should have been shortest bag in the club has to be your putter, full stop. So therefore, all long putters gone. All this worry about holding your hand to your chest or whatever. Make a decision, get on with it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's insane that they're not looking at the golf ball. Jack Nicklaus said it, whatever it was, 10 years ago.
Yeah,
and he's dead right. That's the thing. You can have all the clubs you want, all the upper body strength, you can do all the torque, everything you want. Change the golf ball so it doesn't go as far. Problem solved. Your golf course has become relevant again.
Like just looking at last week's stats, right, from Dubai. Okay, Richie Ramsey was actually Ian Poulter was the shortest hitter at 287 yards, 0.4.
What would you have been at?
The longest hitter is 321. Well, Richie and myself would have been something similar, so obviously it was very hot there. So 290 is probably about 275 normally, and that's where I was at.
Right.
And you just can't compete. You just can't compete giving a guy 50 yards on every tee box.
Before we wrap up, it is a new segment that I literally just invented about 15 minutes ago. It's the What Would Peter Lawrie Do section. Look at this photo, Peter. Paul Dunn in Dubai last week. Do you see his ball just plonked there?
Indeed, yeah. A bit unlucky there, Paul, all right.
Yeah, he looks a little bit frustrated. What do you do there? Can you take an unplayable?
You can take an unplayable, but the ball has to be in the bunker. You have to keep the ball in the bunker. You can't keep the ball out of the bunker. That shot there, you probably just try and hit it to the side and work your way on. He's certainly not going to get it on the green from that position.
You don't just smash it and hope for the best. Worst case scenario, ends up just rolling back into the bunker?
Well, you're looking at your own footprint then, you know what I mean? If the ball goes into your own footprint, you're dead.
If I was in Luttrell's Sound, Peter, to be honest, I just smash it and hope for the best.
Okay.
But listen, you're a pro around here. I think he did get it out.
He probably got it out sideways, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the difference. Fionn, what would you have done? We should ask you, you try your best.
I would have done exactly what you just said. I would have tried my best, smashed it out as best as I could, and then cursed.
In fairness, that is quite literally what I do when the ball is perfectly placed in the bunker. I just smash it and hope for the best and cry a little bit then when I've taken 5 shots and my round is entirely ruined. I think that's us done. Fionn, have you anything else?
No, that's it, lads.
You're looking beautiful. A bit of lighting next time mightn't go astray. We don't get to see your beautiful faces as well over there.
But I was told, see, this is the thing, the boffins in production told me it was too bright. So
it looks quite sunny over there, not a bit like here today in
it's
sunny
horrendous.
Dublin.
It's cold and grim. Yeah.
All right.
Grim.
Fionn, great stuff.
No Irish guys this week in European Tour? None at all.
In Maybank?
In Maybank, yes.
Why, have you got one?
No, there's no Irish guys. Chris Paisley was leading before we
Chris Paisley's having a very good month, isn't he?
Unbelievable.
And he was decent odds. I had a look at it last night. He was still out about 28 to 1. I couldn't believe it.
Great golf course for him. Absolutely great. You don't have to hit it long. Just got to get it into play.
He's playing sensational
where the ladies
golf.
Play their tournament. So
okay,
yeah.
Why would Gavin Moynihan wouldn't get in?
No. Most of actually, if you had your card from last year, you didn't get in. Right. I think it's a very short field. I think there's only 70 European tourist players playing in it.
So that's it done. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
We might see a lot more of you over the next few weeks. As I say, Joe Malloy has been a superstar and has turned his back on you, the Golf Weekly viewer and listener, but I'm still here. I'm just not getting these big job offers right now, but it's fine. I'm not bitter at all about it.
Get a bit of product placement now.
Wait, hey, listen. Now that he's gone, an opportunity has opened up, and I have no shame. I know Fionn has no shame, and you, Peter, have shown today you clearly have absolutely no shame. Renault Bellegarde and Luttrellstown bringing you Golf Weekly every week. We'll talk to you next week. Good luck.
Thanks.